Ma, please, you don't understand.
No, baby, you don't. I know about this. I really know.
What if one of the most iconic love stories of the 80s almost never made it to the screen? Dirty Dancing might be a beloved classic today, but behind the unforgettable music and legendary lift was a whirlwind of tension, near-miss casting choices, freezing lakes, and a title nobody liked.
My wife and I raise straight Egyptian purebred Arabians in Houston, and we come here for horse shows. Matter of fact,
More than 3 decades since it first hit cinemas, Dirty Dancing continues to have a firm place in pop culture. Released in 1987, the film didn't just become an unexpected box office hit, it turned its stars Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey into household names and cultural icons. What many people don't know, however, is that this now legendary film very nearly didn't make it to the screen at all. Its journey from concept to cult classic was filled with production hurdles, casting uncertainties, and even disputes over something as basic as the title. Initially, the film was viewed by many as a risky project. Back in the 1980s, certain themes were considered taboo, and titles that suggested even mild controversy could jeopardize a film's chance of distribution or public support. The name Dirty Dancing, which now seems entirely fitting, was once seen as provocative and potentially problematic. At the time, there were widespread concerns from studios and censors alike that the title implied adult content, perhaps even something bordering on inappropriate for mainstream cinema. Eleanor Bergstein, who wrote the screenplay and based much of the story on her own life, shared in an interview years later that even the Canadian authorities held up the film's daily footage at the border because they initially suspected it was pornographic. That alone says a lot about how the name was received at the time. Producers had to work hard to convince people that this was, in fact, a heartfelt story centered on dance, youth, and personal transformation, not something inappropriate or explicit. While the studio eventually agreed to keep the original title, not everyone was happy about it. Patrick Swayze, in particular, was very vocal about his dislike for the title. In a 1987 interview with entertainment journalist Bobby Wygant, he openly admitted that he hated the name Dirty Dancing. He said he would have preferred something more serious or elegant, and felt the title didn't reflect the emotional depth and passion within the story. But, despite his strong opinions, the marketing team and producers stuck to the name, believing it would generate curiosity and attention, which it certainly did. Interestingly, alternate titles were considered before Dirty Dancing was locked in. One of the more bizarre suggestions, reportedly floating around during early development, was "I was a teenage mambo queen." That name, while probably tongue-in-cheek, illustrates how much uncertainty there was in the early stages. With hindsight, it's hard to imagine the film being called anything else. The phrase "Dirty Dancing" has become so iconic that even those unfamiliar with the movie itself recognize the title. But title debates weren't the only challenges faced during production. There were significant changes in the cast lineup, and several roles were almost played by completely different people. The character of Johnny Castle, played by Patrick Swayze, was originally offered to other actors. At one point, Billy Zane was cast in the role. Zane, who later became widely known for his role in Titanic, apparently had the look producers were after, but lacked the necessary chemistry with Jennifer Grey. Chemistry between the two leads was essential. The entire film depends on the growing connection between Johnny and Baby, both emotionally and physically through dance. The director, Emile Ardolino, made it very clear from the beginning that he didn't want to rely on dance doubles or stand-ins. He wanted real dancers who could also act, and actors who could genuinely move. Patrick, who had trained at the Hartness and Joffrey Ballet Schools in New York, fit the bill perfectly in that regard. Babe the Patrick, who had trained at the Hartness Ballet Schools in New York, fit the bill perfectly in that regard. Though casting him wasn't a straightforward choice, despite his dance credentials, Patrick had concerns of his own. He had suffered a serious knee injury during his stage career and had even added "no dancing" to his professional resume to avoid re-injuring himself. Taking on a film that centered around intense choreography was a risk, both physically and professionally. But ultimately, his passion for the project and his belief in its message won out. On the other side, Jennifer Grey was not a trained dancer, which made her a surprising choice for a role so deeply rooted in dance. Before landing the part of Baby, she was up against other young actresses like Sarah Jessica Parker and Winona Ryder. Jennifer had previously worked with Patrick on the film Red Dawn, and although that meant they were already acquainted, their on-screen chemistry wasn't exactly instant magic. In fact, reports suggest that the two didn't get along very well during the early stages of filming. Jennifer later revealed in interviews that Patrick's fearless approach to performance clashed with her more cautious, emotionally sensitive nature. She said he was bold and unafraid to try anything, while she was more hesitant and needed reassurance. This difference in personality styles created tension during rehearsals and even on set. Patrick echoed these sentiments in his 2009 autobiography, The Time of My Life. He recalled that Jennifer could be overly emotional, sometimes crying when criticized or getting too giggly during serious scenes, which led to multiple retakes. At times this frustrated him. Their working relationship was a bit of a roller coaster, swinging between creative friction and rare moments of synchronicity. Despite these off-camera differences, something clicked when the cameras rolled. What audiences saw was a believable and touching romance, full of intensity and vulnerability. The production team recognized early on that while the two stars didn't always get along personally, the tension between them translated into chemistry on screen. Rather than being seen as a problem, it became an asset. Their dynamic gave the characters real depth. Baby's initial nervousness and Johnny's guarded demeanor felt authentic because, in many ways, those emotions mirrored the actors' real interactions. This complexity in their relationship also gave the film a sense of realism that resonated with audiences. Many people related to the feeling of being drawn to someone very different from themselves and how those differences can create both conflict and connection. By the time the final scenes were shot, the actors had settled into a rhythm and their performances reflected a matured connection, one that had been earned over time, both within the story and in real life. Looking back, it's fascinating to think about how differently things could have gone if Billy Zane had stayed on as Johnny, or if Jennifer hadn't been cast as Baby. Would the film have had the same magic? Would audiences have connected as strongly with the characters and their journey? It's impossible to know for sure, but it's clear that everything, right down to the casting and the title, played a crucial role in the film's eventual success. Dirty Dancing may have faced more than its fair share of obstacles in the beginning, but that makes its success all the more impressive. From initial concerns about its name to nearly being scrapped due to casting challenges, the film defied the odds, and in doing so, it became one of the most beloved romantic dramas of the 1980s. By the time it hit theaters, all the early doubts had been replaced by critical acclaim and audience admiration, but the road to get there was anything but smooth. It was a story built on persistence, unexpected choices, and a little bit of behind-the-scenes chaos. Exactly the kind of story that makes a film not only memorable, but iconic. While Dirty Dancing may appear smooth and joyful on screen, the reality behind its production was quite the opposite. The film's endearing charm and seemingly effortless performances were the result of countless behind-the-scenes challenges, many of which were incredibly demanding for both the cast and crew. What makes this film stand out even more is that some of its most beloved and iconic scenes weren't in the script at all. They came from genuine, in-the-moment interactions between the actors and the unpredictability of the filming environment. These unscripted moments, combined with grueling working conditions, shaped the movie in ways no one could have expected. One of the most talked about moments in the film is the training montage between Johnny and Baby. In that sequence, Johnny runs his fingers slowly down Baby's arm as part of their dance practice. Baby breaks into a fit of laughter, unable to stay serious. It's a sweet, funny moment that captures their growing bond and chemistry, What many viewers don't know is that this scene wasn't scripted at all. Jennifer Grey's laughter was real. She was genuinely ticklish, and Patrick Swayze's finger trailing was enough to set her off. At the time, Patrick wasn't amused. His reaction on camera, visibly frustrated, was also real. According to producer Linda Gottlieb, this particular moment wasn't even part of the footage they were planning to use. It was only later, in the editing room, that their dance editor stumbled upon it. When the production team saw it again, they were caught off guard and started laughing. It had slipped through the cracks during filming. Jennifer and Patrick were shown the footage, and they too burst into laughter. Everyone had forgotten the moment ever happened, but it was so authentic and so charming that the editors decided to use it instead of the more polished version they had planned. That unscripted giggle became one of the most memorable scenes in the film. Another spontaneous moment came during the scene where Johnny and Baby danced to Love is Strange by Mickey and Sylvia. It's light-hearted and fun, showing the two characters fooling around with each other during a break from serious choreography. It gives the audience a glimpse of their playful side and adds to their evolving relationship. Once again, that wasn't a planned scene. The actors were just goofing around during a rehearsal, completely unaware that the cameras were rolling. The production crew, recognizing the authenticity of the moment, kept filming. When the footage was reviewed, it was clear that the scene had captured something truly special. It was raw, unscripted, and completely real, and it made it into the final cut. Moments like these are rare in filmmaking. Usually scenes are carefully scripted, blocked, and rehearsed to achieve the perfect look and timing. But Dirty Dancing found much of its heart in these unexpected, off-the-cuff interactions. Rather than force the story into a rigid structure, the filmmakers embraced the spontaneous moments that unfolded naturally on set. The result was a film that felt more real and relatable to viewers. Despite these joyful surprises, the overall experience of filming Dirty Dancing wasn't easy. The set was fraught with difficulties, from creative tension to physical discomfort. One of the most significant challenges was the extreme weather conditions the cast and crew had to endure. Most of the film was shot on location in Virginia and North Carolina, and while the movie is set during summer, much of the filming took place during late autumn. That meant cooler temperatures, shorter days, and far from ideal conditions for outdoor scenes, especially ones that required the actors to be in the water. The now-to-comic lake lift scene, for instance, might look romantic and liberating on screen, but filming it was anything but. The water was freezing cold, reportedly around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Jennifer Grey later admitted that the lake was so cold it was horrific, and the only reason she was able to push through was because she was young and driven. Patrick Swayze had similar recollections, describing the water as hypothermic. Because of the temperature, the scene could only be shot a few times, and with limited takes, the pressure to get it right was intense. Physical demands weren't limited to the lake scenes. The heat was also a problem during indoor shoots. Inside the ballroom and cabin sets, the temperature reportedly soared to as high as 120 degrees Fahrenheit due to the lighting equipment. During one particularly long day of shooting, several crew members fainted from heat exhaustion, and veteran actress Paula Truman had to be taken to the hospital for dehydration. Despite these challenges, filming continued, often under difficult and uncomfortable circumstances. Patrick Swayze was particularly affected. Known for doing his own stunts and dance routines, he pushed his body to the limit during filming. This included the log balancing scene, which required multiple takes. In one instance, Patrick fell several times and injured his already fragile knee, which had been weakened by a past football injury and years of dance. The swelling became so severe that fluid had to be drained regularly just to keep him going. Yet, Patrick didn't complain publicly and remained committed to his performance. His perseverance was one of the reasons the dance scenes felt so genuine. He gave it everything, even when it physically hurt. This dedication paid off, particularly during the film's climax, where Johnny lifts Baby high into the air in front of the crowd. That moment is often considered one of the most iconic in cinematic history. What many people don't know is that Patrick and Jennifer only rehearsed the final lift once, on the day it was filmed. They saved it intentionally, knowing it would be the emotional climax of the film and wanting it to feel as fresh and authentic as possible. Jennifer later wrote about this in her memoir, saying that what the audience saw wasn't just acting, it was real emotion, real relief, and real connection between two people who had overcome a difficult journey together. Aside from physical discomfort and unscripted scenes, there was also the challenge of maintaining the illusion of summer during the colder months. As autumn crept in and leaves began to change color, the production team had to get creative. Grass and foliage was spray-painted green to make the environment look lush and summery. Actors wore light clothing despite the cold, and steam could sometimes be seen escaping from their mouths in the early morning hours, which the editors later tried to remove or obscure. All of this extra effort went into keeping the film's setting believable, despite the less-than-ideal conditions and the personal strain. These hardships somehow worked in the film's favor. There's an underlying tension and energy in many of the scenes that might not have existed if things had been too easy. The struggle translated into performances that felt urgent and passionate, and ironically, many of the film's problems, cold temperatures, physical injuries, last-minute changes, helped give it the raw, human quality that made it resonate so deeply with audiences. Dirty Dancing didn't come together perfectly or smoothly, and perhaps that's why it worked so well. It was a film that wasn't overly polished, that had cracks and friction and moments of imperfection, but within that, there was also magic. Real emotion, real chemistry, and real effort. Scenes that could have been thrown out for not being part of the plan ended up becoming the heart of the movie. Scenes that were hard to shoot became some of the most talked about. In the end, the struggles behind the camera helped to elevate what we saw in front of it. As viewers, it's easy to get caught up in the magic of the finished product without realizing how many obstacles were overcome along the way. But the story of Dirty Dancing's production is a reminder that creativity doesn't always follow a straight line. Sometimes the best moments are the ones you didn't see coming. Absolutely. Here's part 3 of your unique video script. This section dives into the challenges surrounding casting choices, on-set chemistry between actors, and some deeply personal setbacks Jennifer Grey experienced during and after the success of Dirty Dancing. The tone remains neutral and fact-based, with a natural, conversational flow. Casting decisions can define the success or failure of a film, and in the case of Dirty Dancing, some of those decisions were closer to falling apart than fans might imagine. Before Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey became household names, the roles of Johnny Castle and Baby Houseman were nearly given to other actors. The behind-the-scenes casting process reveals just how fragile the early development of the film really was. Patrick Swayze wasn't the only actor considered for the role of Johnny. In fact, several notable names were attached at various points. Billy Zane, Benicio del Toro, and even Val Kilmer were reportedly in the running. Billy Zane came particularly close to landing the role. He had the smoldering looks the producers were after, but there was one crucial issue. He didn't have chemistry with Jennifer Grey. Chemistry reads are a standard part of the casting process, and in this case, it was clear that the dynamic between Zane and Grey wasn't going to work. Without a believable connection between the two leads, the entire romantic core of the film would have fallen flat. Eventually, the role went to Patrick, who, despite initial resistance from some involved in the production, had both the dancing experience and the emotional depth required to carry the character. Patrick was far from a beginner when it came to performing. He had trained at prestigious dance institutions like the Harkness and Joffrey Ballet Schools. That foundation gave him a physical fluency that few actors could match, making him uniquely suited for a film that required extensive dancing, but it wasn't a perfect fit from the start. Patrick had some health concerns, particularly with an old knee injury that made certain physical sequences especially painful. More on that later, but at the time, his health was a serious concern for the production team. Jennifer Grey also wasn't the first actress considered for Baby. Other names that came up during casting included Sarah Jessica Parker and Winona Ryder, both of whom auditioned. Jennifer, however, had something the producers found compelling, a vulnerability and sincerity that made the character feel grounded. She wasn't a trained dancer like Patrick, but her commitment and raw talent gave her performance authenticity. Ironically, Jennifer and Patrick had worked together before on the 1984 film Red Dawn. That previous experience should have given them an edge when paired together again, but instead it seemed to reignite old tensions. Their differing approaches to acting led to frequent clashes on set. Patrick was known for his discipline and intensity, while Jennifer had a more spontaneous, emotionally driven style. The contrast led to friction during rehearsals and filming. Patrick described Jennifer in his autobiography as someone who could be emotionally volatile, tears one moment, laughter the next. These mood swings made it difficult to maintain consistency in scenes and often led to retakes. Despite these behind-the-scenes challenges, the on-screen chemistry between the two leads felt electric. It's one of the film's greatest strengths, and a huge reason why it's endured for so long. Director Emil Ardolino and choreographer Kenny Ortega worked hard to channel the real-life tension between Patrick and Jennifer into something that could translate to the audience. In some ways, the actors' differences helped elevate the story. The push and pull dynamic between Johnny's confidence and Baby's innocence gave their relationship texture and realism. Kenny Ortega later reflected on their working relationship, acknowledging the ups and downs. He described their interactions as a kind of creative combustion, sometimes loving, sometimes frustrating, but always intense. He believed that this emotional contrast was part of what made their connection so believable on screen. To maintain that energy throughout the filming process, the production team took an unconventional approach. They made Patrick and Jennifer re-watch their original chemistry test footage to remind them of what they were capable of together. This tactic helped bridge the emotional gap between the two actors and got them back into a collaborative headspace. Despite all the challenges, both actors delivered performances that would define their careers. Patrick Swayze's portrayal of Johnny Castle turned him into a heartthrob, while Jennifer Grey's Baby became an icon for independent young women discovering their voice. But while Dirty Dancing was a breakthrough for both, it came with personal costs, especially for Jennifer. At what should have been the peak of her rising stardom, Jennifer Grey suffered a devastating personal tragedy. Just before the film's release in 1987, she was involved in a serious car accident in Ireland while vacationing with her then-boyfriend, actor Matthew Broderick. The accident resulted in the deaths of 2 people, and while Jennifer wasn't at fault, the event left a deep psychological impact. Matthew Broderick was seriously injured, and the trauma hung heavily over what should have been a joyful celebration of Dirty Dancing's success. That emotional weight followed Jennifer for years and made it difficult for her to fully embrace the film's popularity. Public appearances became complicated, interviews were colored by the incident. Her rising star seemed frozen in time, arrested by a traumatic moment she couldn't escape from, emotionally or mentally. In the early 1990s, Jennifer made a decision that she believed would help rejuvenate her career. She underwent rhinoplasty. Cosmetic surgery wasn't uncommon in Hollywood, but Jennifer's experience turned out to be particularly dramatic. The outcome was so drastic that many people, including some close friends, no longer recognized her. The change affected how casting agents saw her and led to a noticeable dip in her career opportunities. Jennifer herself later described the experience as disorienting. She said it felt like she had gone from being someone everyone recognized to being invisible overnight. While the surgery made her more conventionally attractive by Hollywood standards, it stripped away the unique look that had made her stand out. The public and industry response was mixed. Some fans were upset, believing she had lost what made her so relatable. Others felt she looked too generic to lead major roles. Years later, Jennifer reflected on the entire arc of her career and how the surgery had played into it. She even considered changing her name and restarting from scratch just to get a fresh start in the industry. In interviews, she's been candid about the emotional toll it took and how long it took her to find peace with her decision. Ultimately, though, she chose to confront the consequences rather than run from them. In her memoir, Out of the Corner, she speaks openly about the entire journey, from sudden fame to personal loss, from reinvention to acceptance. Her story is one of resilience. While her career may not have followed the trajectory many expected after Dirty Dancing, Jennifer found new paths, new identities, and a renewed sense of self-worth. The film may have been the peak of her early success, but it wasn't the end of her story. Looking back at everything, from the risky casting decisions to the emotional struggles that followed, it's remarkable how much was happening behind the scenes of this seemingly light-hearted film. The tension between actors, the pressure of performance, the personal losses, and unexpected career detours all became part of the larger narrative of Dirty Dancing. And yet, none of this diminished the film's impact. If anything, it made the final product even more meaningful. The film captured lightning in a bottle, and much of that energy came from the real-life challenges the people behind it were facing. Jennifer Grey and Patrick Swayze didn't have an easy journey, but their commitment to their roles created something unforgettable. Their story, both on and off the screen, is one of contrasts, joy and sadness, love and conflict, success and struggle. Filming Dirty Dancing was far from a glamorous experience. While the final product gave off the warm, nostalgic glow of a summer romance, the reality on set was often anything but comfortable. From extreme weather conditions to physical injuries and unexpected production hurdles, the team behind the film went through a series of tough challenges that could have easily derailed the entire project. One of the most talked about scenes in the movie is the iconic lift, performed by Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey in a lake. It's one of the most memorable moments in film history, symbolizing the peak of Baby's transformation and the strength of the connection between her and Johnny. However, the truth behind filming that scene is far less dreamy. The lift was shot in October, well into autumn, and the water temperature had dropped to just around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Despite how effortless it looked on screen, it was freezing cold, and both actors struggled to keep their composure while performing such a physically demanding move. Jennifer Grey later admitted that the water was horrifically cold, and she could only get through the scene because she was young and determined. Patrick Swayze, in his autobiography, described the lake as hypothermically cold and explained that the scene required multiple takes. He also noted that lifting someone in water, even someone light like Jennifer, felt like lifting hundreds of pounds because of the resistance. The cold wasn't the only problem. Despite appearing to be set in the height of summer, the movie was actually filmed in the autumn. To maintain the illusion of summer, the crew had to get creative. Leaves were spray-painted green, and grass was treated to look fresh and lively. The actors wore summer clothes even though the temperatures dropped significantly during some shoots. The cast and crew had to power through these conditions without letting the audience see any signs of discomfort. Adding to the pressure, the interior scenes were often filmed under intense heat. The equipment used to light the sets made temperatures soar to over 120 degrees Fahrenheit indoors. During one of these especially hot days, choreographer Kenny Ortega recalled that several people fainted in quick succession. In fact, 10 crew members reportedly passed out within just 25 minutes, overwhelmed by the unbearable heat. Even veteran actress Paula Trueman, who played Mrs. Schumacher, collapsed from dehydration and had to be rushed to the emergency room. Patrick Swayze, known for his dedication to doing his own stunts, suffered multiple injuries during the shoot. One of the most significant was to his knee, which he had already injured during his earlier dance and football careers. While filming the balancing scene on the log, Patrick fell several times, aggravating the injury to the point where doctors had to drain fluid from his swollen knee. The injury was so severe that it threatened his ability to continue filming. He powered through the pain, but it took a toll on him physically and mentally. Despite all these setbacks, the cast and crew pushed forward. The final product gave no hints of the chaos behind the scenes. Audiences saw a beautifully choreographed, emotionally touching love story, never realizing the sheer amount of resilience and grit it took to bring it to the screen. It's important to note that Dirty Dancing was never expected to be a major hit. When filming wrapped on October 27, 1986, it was completed on time and within its modest $6 million budget, but the rough cut left studio executives feeling unsure. The film had been rejected 43 times by other studios before Vestron Pictures took a chance on it, and even they had their doubts. The test screenings weren't particularly encouraging. A significant portion of viewers didn't even realize that abortion was a central subplot of the film. One prominent producer, Aaron Russo, infamously suggested that the studio should burn the negative and collect the insurance. It was a drastic comment that reflected how low expectations were for the film's performance. Marketing the film also became a major hurdle. Initially, the team had secured a promotional partnership with Clearasil, a popular skincare brand targeting teenagers. However, when the brand learned about the abortion storyline, they pulled out of the deal. This left Vestron to market the film on its own, with limited resources. The initial plan was to release Dirty Dancing in theaters for just one weekend, then move it quickly to home video, where Vestron had more experience. But what happened next shocked everyone. Instead of quietly disappearing, the film gained traction. Word of mouth began to spread and audiences flocked to see it. The emotional core of the story, the memorable music, and the chemistry between the leads resonated deeply. The film went on to gross over $214 million at the box office, a figure that completely dwarfed its original budget. The soundtrack also played a massive role in the film's success. Songs like Hungry Eyes and the Oscar-winning I've Had the Time of My Life became instant hits. The music not only elevated the emotional weight of the film, but also became a defining part of its legacy. The final dance scene, featuring the lift and that iconic track, became one of the most replayed and beloved movie moments of the 1980s. In hindsight, the film's success is seen as a triumph of perseverance. What began as a small project filled with uncertainty turned into a cultural touchstone. It proved that a film didn't need blockbuster special effects or a massive budget to leave a lasting impact. All it needed was a good story, strong performances, and an honest emotional core. Years after its release, the film continues to be celebrated, quoted, and revisited. Its influence on popular culture is undeniable. It has inspired stage adaptations, themed events, and countless homages in other media. And even now, nearly 4 decades later, Dirty Dancing remains a staple of romantic cinema. Given its long-standing popularity, many fans have wondered why there hasn't been a proper sequel. In 2020, it was announced that Jennifer Grey would not only return to the role of Baby Houseman, but also executive produce a new Dirty Dancing film. The story is set to follow Baby decades later, returning to Kellerman's resort in the 1990s. The production was initially slated for a 2024 release, but delays caused by the SAG-AFTRA strike pushed the date back to the summer of 2025. The filmmakers have made it clear that they won't recast the role of Johnny Castle, out of respect for Patrick Swayze, who passed away in 2009. Instead, the new film is expected to incorporate his character into the storyline in a meaningful way, possibly through archival footage or references. Lionsgate reportedly worked with Patrick's estate to ensure that his legacy would be honored appropriately. His widow, Lisa Nemi Swayze, expressed some concerns, stating that Patrick had previously declined sequel offers, believing the original film had a perfect ending. The sequel is moving ahead. According to early reports, it will feature a new young couple experiencing their own summer of dance and romance at Kellerman's, while Baby's journey offers a more reflective look at love, memory, and growth. The project is being handled with care, and many fans are cautiously optimistic. Some feel the original film should remain untouched, while others are excited to see how the next chapter unfolds. Whether the sequel reaches the same emotional heights as the original remains to be seen, but there's no doubt it has big shoes to fill. The first Dirty Dancing was lightning in a bottle, a rare combination of timing, talent, and authenticity. Recreating that kind of magic is never easy, But with Jennifer Grey involved and a deep respect for the original story, there's hope that the next installment will do justice to its legacy. Behind the romance and the dancing, the story of Dirty Dancing is one of persistence. It's about taking creative risks, surviving difficult working conditions, and believing in a vision when no one else does. The film overcame production setbacks, health concerns, and skepticism from almost every direction to become a defining movie of its era. As the franchise continues, the impact of Dirty Dancing reminds us that storytelling doesn't need to be perfect to be powerful. Sometimes it's the imperfections, the moments of tension, the cold water, the arguments, the injuries that make a film truly human. And it's that humanity, more than anything else, that has kept audiences coming back again and again.